Hello everyone, welcome to TA's Cloud. Today I'm going to go through the toolbars in Photoshop. Right, let's start with the Move tool. It's pretty simple. It's used to move a selected area or a layer. You'll see a path selection as well, but this is something different and we'll get on to that later on. Moving on to the next tool is the rectangular marquee tool. It's very simple to use. All you have to do is drag over the subject, and what you can do is you can press the move tool and you can move around the subject. This will only move the area you have selected. You can also do is if you press Ctrl J, which means duplicate, it will duplicate the layers that is selected. If you look here, the area I selected over is now duplicated. You can also do is if you go to a new layer and click on the brush tool, what you can do is color over. We can see that there's another layer here called elliptical marquee tool. It has exactly the same tool and the same actions as the rectangular marquee tool. So the other tool is the lasso tool. The lasso tool is pretty simple to handle with. All you have to do is select the person or the subject, like this. It creates a selection on the shape you've made. It has the same commandments as the marquee tool, so I don't need to go over that as well. Other than that, underneath the lasso tool is the polygon lasso tool. So what this does is, say if we create two dots here, it creates a line, and then after this it creates another line that we can follow. So just like the lasso tool, we can select over the subject. Again, it has the same features of the marquee tool. So the next tool is pretty straightforward. This is called the object selection tool. So if I go to the quick selection tool and I drag over the person or the subject, Photoshop will automatically select over the subject. So if you look here, the line going around the subject. But what you will notice is that if you look here, some of the area is not selected. So what we can do is go to quick selection tool, which is the next tool, and we go to the minus tool over here. We can change the size of this and the spacing a bit higher. Let's make the hardness 80%, and all we need to do is select the things we don't need. Again, if we look here, there's white part here and that's not selected, so we can press the minus button again and just click on this. What this does is it creates a gap and tells Photoshop that this part needs to be cut as well. To get rid of the cut, what we can do is press Ctrl J button. What this does is it creates a duplicate like we used it for the marquee tool. The brush tool is used to color over or draw, but sometimes we use the brush tool to create shadows. Now, in order to add a shadow, we need to create a new layer, change the opacity to 90%, change the hardness to 39%. Now, there are two ways that people use to create a shadow. One way is if we right click and click on one of the dots and just drag it upward. What this does is it creates a view for the brush to be. So we can make this a bit bigger, drag the upper layer underneath the subject. But some people think that this is not a good way to create a shadow. So what they do is they create a new layer. They use a simple brush with a hardness of roughly 39%. The size doesn't really matter. And what they do is just create a normal brush. Now this might look a bit odd. Now then they press Ctrl T to change the shape of the image, and they press Shift. What the Shift does is it presses the two sides together to create a oval shape. And then we can see here that it creates a perfect shadow. I am moving this layer with my arrow keys, so the shadow looks a bit too dark. What we can do is go to the opacity area and just change it to a bit lower. Other videos will be posted on how to use the brush tool effectively later on.